Hello, and welcome back to It's a Very Exciting Time, a podcast by a UFO nerd and his tolerant friend. My name is Scott, and I've been fascinated by the phenomenon my whole life.
And I'm Chuck. I'm an aerospace nerd and a tolerant friend.
Very tolerant. We're recording on the off week. We
Yeah.
started this podcast because since 2017, there have been shocking revelations, from news of secret Pentagon programs to confirmed videos of astonishing craft. In a nutshell, now that we know the government has recovered non-human technology,
Or at least we will once Trump releases the UFO files.
it raises a natural question. If UFOs are real, what else? Suddenly, some of these other parts of the phenomenon that seemed unlikely are pulled into the realm of the possible.
And they may still be unlikely. But even if it's new science and not aliens, woo,
Woo! It's a very exciting time.
oh
And it
boy.
really is a very exciting time,
Yeah?
Chuck. So we recorded last week after not recording for a month, and I was kind of talking about like, oh, it's a little bit of a slow time. Now here we are a week later recording off schedule because
Uh-huh.
so much stuff happened. I'm like, boy, I think we need to kind of rush an episode out to react to this because who knows what else is going to happen after this. It might be
Right.
nothing, or it might be a whole other week of madness, at which point I'll be like, boy, we didn't even have time to talk about all that stuff that happened the week
Yeah.
before. So,
Yeah.
um, if you haven't heard, Trump put out a not a tweet, whatever you call a Truth Social post, saying that he was going to direct the government to release the UFO files.
Oh,
And
okay.
the UFO world immediately went crazy. Um,
Yeah.
and in our Discord, people are sharing links and stuff. And someone was talking about this, and I was like, yeah, I don't really know how to feel about this. Me and Chuck are kind of waffling about whether to record an episode on this. And a few people were like, I don't really think you should. There's not much to it. I mean, until something comes of it, it's just something he said,
Right.
which is true. But I got the sense from watching the community that people were taking this seriously. And I had a growing collection of like quotes and reactions. And finally, I was like, Chuck, I'd like to record an episode this weekend. And then when I started putting the show notes together, I thought this was going to be like a nice, quick, like midweek update, maybe like a 20-minute episode. Like, spoiler alert, I have a full episode of content here because it turns out, as I knew but hadn't really put together, Trump saying that was kind of like the culmination of 2 months of simmering,
Oh.
like, is Trump gonna disclose? Like, all this
Oh.
stuff has been happening in the background. And any individual part of this story kind of wasn't worth talking about.
Yeah.
But when I put them all in one document, it kind of added up.
Wait, so
So
this isn't just a reaction to Obama talking about aliens.
it is, but the Obama thing happened in a larger context. And
I
there's
see.
here's the
Yeah.
thing,
Okay.
it's still Trump. He's
Yeah.
still a wild card.
Right.
Who the fuck knows what this guy is going to do? But there was more to it than I thought, and I think it's worth
Okay.
talking about.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, just so you know, I have not read the notes, so this is going to be a live reaction. It's a treat for
Fantastic.
everyone.
Okay, so we're going to begin not with Trump saying he's going to release the UFO files, not with
Okay.
Obama saying that aliens are real. We're actually going to rewind back to January 9th when a UFO researcher and filmmaker who I've never heard of, but is apparently fairly well respected, named
Okay.
Mark Christopher Lee, posted on Twitter. He said, quote, I was contacted last night by an insider from Washington, D.C., from the Trump administration who told me that President Trump will give a speech about UFO disclosure this year. It was originally scheduled for September at the United Nations Assembly. He has been authorized, apparently, by the world's leaders to give this speech, but he's a bit wary that China and Russia may jump the gun on him.
Wow. Doing a speech like that at the UN assembly seems like a pretty big move.
It would be pretty baller, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's so is the worry that China and Russia might disclose first
Yes,
and
exactly. Well,
steal
at
his
least
thunder.
that's what Mark Christopher Lee says the worry is.
Mm.
Now,
Okay.
here's the thing. I saw this story developing, but my general rule of thumb with stuff like this is I want to see more than one person talking about it.
Yeah.
And it was just this one guy kind of coming out of nowhere. He wasn't echoing a rumor anyone else had said. I didn't
Hmm.
see anybody else following up on it. The few people I saw reacting to it were kind of like cautious optimism. Boy, that'd be cool, but I'm not hearing anything like that from my insiders.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if you go to Mark Christopher Lee's Twitter account, he has been posting nonstop since then about
Okay.
this topic. He has a lot to say on it. And a lot of it boils down to this idea that a lot of people have actually heard what he's heard, but are afraid to come forward and say it, which, okay. I mean,
Why?
I can't prove that or not prove that, but he is aware of the fact that people are kind of critical of the fact that he's just a random guy who
Hmm.
for some reason got this tidbit of insider information. Like, what does that mean? Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to quote one more of his tweets that
Okay.
gives a little more context around this. Later in January, on the 28th, Lee wrote, "My source, who I trust implicitly and has been vetted, told me that President Trump has written his UFO disclosure speech with his advisors and is set to announce to the world on July 8th, the anniversary of the Roswell crash, that we are not alone."
Hmm. Yeah. I guess it's a fitting time. Pick a random time, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he's written, well, he didn't write it. If they've written a speech, um, like I guess I don't know how many people would see that. And I still don't understand why
Yeah.
people would be afraid to talk about it.
I think the idea is that journalists are generally afraid to burn their sources.
Oh, sure,
But yeah,
sure. Yeah.
here's the thing. Your skepticism is warranted. There's a reason I didn't bring this to you in January.
Mm-hmm.
But going
Okay.
back to the well, I
Yeah.
realized like, oh, this kind of plays into this trajectory that we're on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there's these rumors that behind the scenes, Trump is considering doing something. Is
Okay.
that true? Is it just a couple of things that randomly echo each other? Who knows? But I thought it was interesting to go back and mention this.
Yeah.
On February 4th, Laura Trump, who's President Trump's daughter in law, she's married to Eric, she has a podcast, and she said, "There's some speech that he has that I guess at the right time, and I don't know when the right time is, he's going to break out and talk about it, and it maybe has to do with maybe some sort of extraterrestrial life."
A lot of there's a lot of maybes in that
Yeah.
sentence. Like,
Now, she kind of grounds this in after the first presidency, she and Eric and the rest of Trump's kids, I guess, were kind of like pressing, the, like, what do you know about UFOs? And she said he was very cagey about it. And she
yeah.
said, I know him pretty well at this point, and the impression that Eric and I got was that he definitely knows more than he was willing to tell us. So she sees this rumor in that context. Now, what's unclear is she says there are all these stories out there. I'm hearing rumors. Is she hearing from different sources? Or is
Yeah.
she
Hard to
just
tell.
seeing the tweet from Mark Christopher Lee? Is she
Right.
talking to the same insider? Like, we don't know. We just have Mark
Mhm.
Christopher Lee saying, someone in the Trump admin told me this. And then Laura Trump saying, I've heard rumors.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And we
Um,
don't know if her rumors are from Trump. He
right.
would. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. On February 10th, Rick Wilson, the co founder of the Lincoln Project, on a podcast said, "Right before we came on the air, someone texted me. Apparently, Trump is preparing to come out with a major press conference about UFOs."
Oh, well, that's exciting. That was 2 weeks ago. I'm guessing it didn't
It is
happen, or was
exciting.
it?
Well, I think he's hearing the same rumor.
Okay.
But the problem is, again, Is he hearing from someone who saw Laura Trump saying this? Is he hearing
Hmm.
from someone who heard Mark Christopher Lee saying it? Is it Mark Christopher Lee personally texting him? Is it the same insider? Is it a different insider? Like,
Right.
one of the things that people accuse the current UFO movement of is being very kind of like circular reporting.
Right.
And in
Cytogenesis.
particular, right, Arrow and Sean Kirkpatrick, their whole thing was, oh, Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and all these guys, they're just like repeating each other's stories. It's all like one rumor that just gets amplified and amplified and amplified. Um, which, for the record, I don't think is true.
Yeah.
But this is one of those cases where it would be appropriate to be skeptical. We
Hmm.
cannot tell, because no one is willing to name their source, whether they're all talking to one person who's randomly made this up, or whether they're all hearing from different people, or if they're all just repeating the original claim of Mark
Right.
Christopher Lee. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
Now, because of this, and because of Obama's comments, this stuff is in the air.
Sure.
On February 18th, one of the reporters at the White House asks Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt about whether Trump's going to give a speech about UFOs.
Why
Like,
not?
hey,
Yeah.
I've heard this rumor. And she laughs and says, well, a speech on aliens would be news to me. That sounds very exciting, though. I'll have to check in with our speechwriting team. That would be of great interest to me, and apparently former President Obama, too, referencing his comments, which
Yep.
we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. So now with this context, it sort of feels like maybe maybe Obama was actually kind of like priming this pump. Like, well, I let it out. Now what are you gonna
Yeah.
do?
Let's circle back to Obama. Let's
Yeah.
put a
Okay.
pin in that, because I
Cool.
do think you're onto something. But so continuing this idea of before and
Hmm.
shortly after Obama comes out, there's already these rumors circulating that maybe Trump is going to do something.
Hmm.
Um, on February 18th, Joe Murgia, who is a UFO researcher that we've quoted before, tweeted, Trump can start the disclosure process right now if he just waives the NDAs of astrophysicist Dr. Eric Davis. Davis told me that he could share all he's learned about UFOs and NHI with the general public if Trump does that. And then he includes a clip from James Fox's movie Moment of Contact with Davis saying, and Eric Davis is one of those guys who seems to have been like in the middle of this stuff from the beginning. He was on the UAP
Yeah.
task force. He was a contractor to Arrow. He was involved in Bigelow's work back in
Hmm.
OSAP. He's one of the guys that David Grush has talked to. He claims to have actually had access to the legacy program and talked
Hmm.
to scientists in it. So Eric Davis is one of those people who seems to actually know all this stuff, but is very clear. I can't say anything about that. I can walk right
Right.
up to this line and no further.
Yeah.
So in Moment of Contact, James Fox kind of presses him on it, and he says, what would it take to get you to say what you know? And
Hmm.
he kind of thinks for a second. He says, if the president of the US issued an executive order that absolves me of all my TS-SCI NDAs, and I get subpoenaed by Congress to reveal everything I know about the legacy UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering and NHI programs, I would do so. The quote
Hmm.
is a little longer, but that's the meat of
Yeah.
it. Basically, he's like, yeah, I am restrained by an NDA, but if
Hmm.
the president waives it, I'll talk.
Yeah.
Now, a whole bunch of people came out and was like, that's not how NDAs work. That's not how classification works. The president can't
Yeah.
just supersede it. Well, we'll
Right.
get to this in a minute. It actually sounds like maybe it could work that way. But
Interesting. I mean, certainly he
again,
would try it. He's tried everything
yeah,
else. So,
yeah. So we've got all this stuff in the air, these rumors that Trump will talk.
hmm,
People kind of coming out like, hey, if Trump's really interested in disclosure, here's something he could do immediately.
yeah, right.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah,
I think you can see why I didn't bring you any of these individual
of course.
bits.
Yeah.
Like all these nuggets on their own were kind of like, oh, that's interesting. But when I went back and kind of gathered them all up, I'm like, oh, okay, there's a clear through line leading
Mm-hmm.
up to what happened a week ago.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Valentine's Day, a little more than a week ago, former President Barack Obama was on a podcast and he was asked by Brian Tyler Cohen, are aliens real? And we talked about
It,
this in the last episode. This was
yeah,
kind
that
of a
was fun.
lightning round question. So Obama gave this real quick answer. He said, aliens are real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in Area 51. There's no underground facility unless there's this enormous conspiracy and they hid it from the president of the United States. And then he immediately like takes a drink of water, kind of like looking at you over the top of the mug.
Yeah, of
So
course. That sly Obama grin. Just
yeah,
such a
so we
troll.
talked
I
about
love it.
this last week that throwaway line, unless they hid it from the president, on its own feels like a very straightforward, like, okay, he means they didn't. But the whole thing with age of disclosure and a bunch of other things is literally the allegation is they have hidden it from presidents. Presidents have been
Mm-hmm.
excluded and don't have a need to know. Um, Now, literally the day after, shortly after we recorded our podcast on February 15th, Obama posted on Instagram and he's like, okay, yo, I was trying to stick with the spirit of the speed round, but since it's gotten attention, let me clarify. Statistically, the universe is so vast that the odds are good there's life out there, but the distances between solar systems are so great that the chances we've been visited by aliens is low, and I saw no evidence during my presidency that extraterrestrials have made contact with us. Really?
Yeah. No sly Obama grin at that point, or was this
Yeah,
a
so
tweet?
he's clearly walking it back. Now, here's what's interesting. Nothing he says here actually contradicts what he said in the interview. Um,
Yeah.
in the interview, he said aliens are real. Now he's saying aliens are statistically likely to be real. All right, kind of a
Mm-hmm.
cop out. But he's like, they're not being kept in Area 51. That sure sounds authoritative. There's no underground facility in Area 51. That sounds authoritative. And unless there's an enormous conspiracy and they hid it from the presidency of the United States, that doesn't contradict this. So he's walking it back, but
Kind of.
those of us in the
Yeah.
community are still kind of like, well, I mean, maybe. And also, the spirit of the question, his answer was not aliens are real, probably somewhere. We've seen a dozen politicians give that answer when they're
Mm-hmm.
pressed on, why are you guys talking about UFOs? Do you really think aliens are coming? You're like, oh, well, statistically, alien life
Mm-hmm.
must exist. It's a really common like safety rail to grab onto when you're getting pressure. But he didn't say anything about it being statistical. He said aliens are real. Full stop.
Yep.
I haven't seen them and they're not in Area 51. So the context was clearly alien life, alien contact here on Earth. I stand by that. I think he was forced to walk it back because he was getting a lot of press, but it was disappointing, and that's where we're at. Now, again, I had no plans to follow up on this.
Mm-hmm.
Him
Yeah.
walking it back is so completely predictable. It was not worth us making a note in the
Yeah.
next podcast episode.
Right.
Except less than a week later, on Air
Yeah.
Force One, on February 19th at about noon, White House correspondent Peter Doocy asked Trump, quote, Barack Obama said aliens are real. Have you seen any evidence of non-human visitors to Earth? Trump immediately responds, well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that.
Interesting.
Ducey goes, so aliens are real? And Trump kind of rolls his eyes. He goes, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information. I don't have an opinion on it. I never talk about it. A lot of people do. A lot of people believe it. I may get him out of trouble by declassifying it.
Do it. Why not? Like, the thing is, if all the if the previous presidents haven't been able to declassify it or even see it, if J2 can't see it, like what are the odds that he can just magically declassify this stuff? It seems
Well, we'll get to
unlikely.
that. But
Okay.
talking about whether he's been briefed, David Grush claims that President
Mm-hmm.
Trump explicitly has been briefed on this
Yeah,
topic.
right.
He's very clear about this. Um, Now, there's a lot to unpack in this.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, hey, Trump, Obama said aliens are real. Have you seen evidence? Peter Doocy works for Fox News. This is a softball. Hey,
Yeah,
do you want to make fun of President Obama for a minute? Trump does not take the bait. He
yeah,
reacts and goes, whoa, he gave classified information. What?
yeah.
Okay. Um, Nothing's classified unless there's something there. If aliens don't exist and they're not coming here, it ain't classified. So what the
Mm.
fuck? Now, a lot of people have come out and said, like, oh, he must be referring to the Area 51 part of Obama's comments. But Peter Doocy doesn't mention that.
Oh, yeah.
And here we go. Trump derangement syndrome. Get it out of your system, everybody. I'm about to say something about Trump.
Oh my
This
God.
dude's short attention span means I don't believe that 4 days later, Donald Trump remembers that Obama said something about Area 51. I
Right.
think this reporter said, Obama says aliens are real. That's the context. That is the extent of the information he is reacting to.
Yeah, I
He
believe it.
says, that's classified.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Yeah,
Trump then
absolutely.
kind of like waffles. He's like, I don't know. I don't have an opinion on it. He's said this repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I may get him out of trouble by declassifying it. Boy, you better believe
So
Trump
noble.
loves having a leg up on someone. I
Sure.
think Obama is legally in trouble, and I have the ability to get him in trouble. Now he
Mm-hmm.
has to come groveling to me. Right? He's
Yeah.
so pleased with himself.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what happened was not Trump making fun of Obama,
Right.
Trump ridiculing the idea of aliens. Trump says, in reaction to Obama's comments about aliens, that he revealed classified information. That's a very specific claim.
Yeah, it is.
Later that afternoon, Fox News tweets, we followed up with the White House. We wanted to know what part of Barack Obama's comments did the president feel were classified. Was it the
Mhm.
part where he says he believes in aliens, or the part that they were not in Area 51? They were also asked if the DOJ was going to look into these comments because they were classified. The White
Yeah.
House told us there's nothing to add to the president's comments tonight.
It- yeah.
Which, by the
Yep.
way, if you haven't noticed, is the White House's kind of standard line for when they
Hmm.
don't want to get baited into like having to translate something Trump said off the cuff into
Yeah.
official policy. Like, yeah, the president's comments speak for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. All you need to know is written on the task.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, the one thing I saw someone say that I thought was plausible, and for the record, I still think Trump was not talking about Area 51. But for
yeah.
the moment, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's not talking about aliens. He's talking about the fact that Obama said something about Area 51. Well, Area 51's existence is public at this point.
Yeah.
But what Obama said is there's no underground base at Area 51. And maybe that's classified.
Hmm. I mean, it's funny because that's not how I read it, but
Yeah.
not being kept in Area 51, period. There's no underground facility.
Right.
Um,
No,
but
that's what I'm
you
saying.
know,
Like the
the underground
the
facilities we hear about.
classified part isn't the aliens, it's that he said there's no underground facility at Area
Okay,
51. Like
I
he's
guess that makes
talking
sense.
about an actual facility. There, pretend there are no aliens or UFOs. It's still a military facility, and he just said something about it that
Yeah.
maybe that's what he meant. But
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I think that's giving Trump way too much credit.
Yeah. Agreed.
Now, so Trump made that comment on Air Force One at noon. At 4:30, Brian Tyler Cohen, the podcaster, asked Obama about aliens, tweeted, "What have I done?"
That was the entire tweet. I love it.
That's the entire tweet. Now, here's the best part about that. That was at 4:30, reacting to Trump saying Obama gave away classified information, which is already lighting the UFO world on fire. At 5:15, so not even an hour after Brian tweets, Trump posts on Truth Social. Based on the tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, and unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters.
Oh, so it is funny to me to see the difference between Trump's written form and his spoken form. Like, this is positively coherent.
Yeah.
Um, but like, they already have a department that does that. And the Arrow doesn't do anything. So I don't understand how him
Arrow
directing.
explicitly is not about releasing all UFO files to the public.
Sure. Sure.
Arrow
Okay.
is about identifying UFO cases and publishing those. And as
Mhm.
we've talked about many times, there's a strong sense that Arrow is explicitly a smokescreen. Like,
Yeah.
regardless of what Congress told them to do, they're treating their job as cover up.
Yeah. Right.
But I mean, Trump's post is pretty straightforward. In the same way that he said he was going to release the Epstein files, he's like, I'm going to release all the UFO files. I'm going to tell the DOD
Yeah.
to identify and release all government files about alien and extraterrestrial life. I mean,
Cool.
that is a big statement, like, full
Yeah.
stop. So I kind of love that Brian, like, reacted to this, like, what
Mhm.
have I done, before Trump even did the big thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah, over the next 2 days, like,
I bet.
the UFO community has just been shitting themselves about, like, what does this mean? Do we take
Mhm.
this seriously? Is this a thing? So I've kind of broken this down into three groups of reactions to Trump. So
Okay.
I'm going to start with reactions from Congress members.
Okay.
So within like 15 minutes, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who has been giving a lot of interviews lately about
I
how
bet.
the DOD is hiding UFO evidence from them and it's a cover up and aliens are transdimensional and all this stuff. Like, she's been out in front of the press already for the last
Okay.
month about this. Immediately tweets, looks like we're about to have a ton of hearings on this. Now the DOW cannot hide from our docs request anymore.
That'll be interesting. That's Department of War.
Yeah.
What's the difference between DOW and DOD? Do you know? It's okay if
When
not.
Trump released an executive statement saying the Department of Defense is now called the Department of War.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So there
Literally
isn't.
the same organizational body. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Set. Jesus.
A little while later, Representative Eric Burleson tweeted, the most likely thing that people can expect to happen is to learn that we are truly aware that there are objects and they are not from here. We have no idea what they are. I've been trying to track these things down for 2.5 years. Everywhere I go, I came up with a dead end. So just be prepared for the reality to be that we know almost nothing about this, but we know that there's something we don't know.
I'm trying to parse it. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
He's trying to temper expectations, right? Like,
Yeah.
Burleson
Yeah.
is a member of the UFO caucus, and he
Yeah.
is the one who has been most like, I'm a skeptic. Like, I don't think I believe in this. I think it's more likely to turn out to be a black program, but the fact that there are black
Yeah.
programs being improperly hidden from Congress is worth digging into. And that's, you know, like, that's always the tack he's taken. So
Mm.
I do appreciate him kind of trying to temper expectations because he was
Right.
immediately getting interview requests like, hey, what
Yeah.
does this mean?
Yeah, right. And I think it's good that he is a member of the UAP caucus saying like, hold up, this is complicated. We've been trying to do this for a while. It may not
Yeah.
be so fast. Yeah.
Anna Paulina Luna, all gas, no brakes.
Yeah.
Burleson, let's pump the brakes a little bit.
I mean, Burleson is not normally the brake pumper, though, is he?
It's hard to say. Uh,
Yeah.
if you're a member of the UAP caucus, you're not a brake pumper. But of the members of the UAP caucus, he is perhaps the most brake pumper.
Okay. Sure.
Representative Jared Moskowitz came in a little later. He said, I think you will see, maybe this week, a bunch of us in Congress do a press conference on a bipartisan basis to try to talk about more disclosure, more information, to take the president's words and turn that into action. Let's get some of these documents out and get them released to the American people.
Yeah. I thought it was, I always think it's weird when they say, take the president's words. Because isn't the president supposed to do what Congress wants?
I
Like,
mean, not according to the powers of separation.
yeah.
There's supposed to be a tension between the
Okay.
president and Congress.
Fair. Yeah. Fair.
But I interpret that a little differently. I interpret
Okay.
that as the president said something,
Yeah.
but that doesn't necessarily mean anything's going to happen. We as
Yeah.
Congress need to come in and apply pressure, which
Mm,
the UAP caucus has already been doing, but has been
right.
very transparent about the fact that they are getting stonewalled. They're
Yeah.
continually meeting with
Everywhere.
people. They try to draft legislation and people come in
Mm-hmm.
and shut them down. So what I'm hearing as a through line here is cautious optimism. The
Mm-hmm.
president seems to have endorsed UFO transparency. Will anything come of the president's statement? Will he release an executive order? Will there be an actual directive? Regardless of that, he has shown public support for this,
Yeah.
and now it's time for us to follow up. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
pretty encouraging.
I think so too. And Eric Davis said something similar
Mm-hmm.
about it being kind of a two-phase thing. Needs
Mm-hmm.
both the
Yep,
president and Congress to do their part.
that's a great point. Um, and just for a little bit of balance, because not everybody in Congress is in the UAP caucus, Representative Thomas Massey tweeted, they've deployed the ultimate weapon of mass distraction, but the Epstein files aren't going away, even for aliens.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
it's a good perspective. Like
yep.
why would Trump do this? What is he trying to distract from? But that also um, presumes some guile on his part, and I'm not sure how much there
I
is.
mean, I definitely believe that Trump is capable of looking for distractions. It's just that
Mm,
usually the
mhm.
distractions he looks for are, I'm going to bomb Iran. You know, like a little more
Right.
visceral than that.
Yeah.
What's really funny is someone on Reddit posted, life imitates art, and linked to a quote from July of late night host Seth Meyers saying, I honestly think we're just one Epstein story away from Trump announcing that UFOs are real.
Amazing. Yeah.
So Seth called it.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of the community, let's dig into some reactions from the community.
Okay.
First of all, UFO journalist George Knapp, who I should
Okay.
note, although he is a very respectable long-term UFO journalist, has been kind of down on the idea of disclosure for a
Really?
long time. He's been kind of clear. He's like, I don't think we're going to get shit from the government, like
Mm,
ever.
mhm.
Um, he tweeted, well, let's see where this leads. Even with inevitable redactions or the withholding of documents by intelligence agencies and non-compliance by contractors, a presidential directive to release UFO files is a big deal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it is a big deal. And we have at least until the point when it gets contested or whatever,
Yeah.
during which things could happen.
Yeah. I think that's a really helpful point. I wanted to include it because it kind of ties into a theme that we touch on all the time in this
Mhm.
podcast, which is it is buck wild how different the UFO
Right.
topic is now from the 90s.
Yeah.
If a president had come out in the 80s or 90s and been like, I'm directing the DoD to release all UFO files, it would have been the only news story for a week, but it would not have been because anybody thought UFOs were real. It would have been like,
Yeah.
has the president gone mental?
Yeah. Right.
Like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
now,
Well, bigger topic. Nobody is surprised that Trump is saying wild things, but
no.
just ignore the fact that it's Trump. A
Yeah.
sitting US
Yeah.
president
The president.
making this statement is
Yeah.
a big deal and is noteworthy. Even if nothing comes
Totally.
of it, it speaks to how far the conversation has come in
Right.
the public consciousness.
Yeah. Yep. For sure.
Um, Post Disclosure World, aka UFO Jesus, tweeted about this, and he said something that kind of echoes this feeling. He said, look, Trump saying what he did tonight on Truth Social will not go away. Imagine people like Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard or CIA Director John Ratcliffe being asked questions about UFOs now that Trump publicly said he wants transparency. Trump's post should light a fire under journalists and make anyone asked about the topic much more cautious about lying.
Much more cautious about lying. Is similarly cautious about obscuring, do you think? But it's a good point still.
I think it's an indication that
Yeah.
even if there's no legal force behind it, the president making a public statement
Hmm.
is a tacit endorsement. The
Yeah.
UAP
Right.
caucus has been all gas, no brakes for a while now, but it's been
Hmm.
a little unclear how much backing from the executive they have.
Right.
At least
Now.
verbally, they have backing now.
Right.
It'd
Yeah.
be great if
Yeah.
that turned into some legal backing. We'll get to
Right.
that in a few minutes, but
Yeah.
for the moment at least, I think this is a very strong signal. We've got a green light from the White House.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Go to town. Let's see what we can get done. Yeah. I think you're right.
Another tweet from Dr. Beatrice Villarroel, who we talked about recently with
Mm-hmm.
the transient survey and stuff. She said, this is good news. A serious push towards transparency on the UFO and NHI question is underway. At the same time, we should expect increased activity from disinformation actors and efforts aimed at slowing or undermining that process. The next few months may well feel like a circus.
Yeah. I think that's true. And I think what George Knapp said was really true. Like, um, there is going to be he didn't mention disinformation campaigns, but definitely like withholding, redacting too much, non-compliance. Like,
Yeah, what's the term when you're using bureaucracy as a resistance tool, like
malicious non-compliance,
yeah,
or
malicious non-compliance. That's the phrase I was thinking of. Yeah.
yeah,
Like there's a lot that agencies can do just by dragging their feet. Like
yeah,
Arrow is supposed to have released the second volume of their historical report, and
yeah.
they were supposed to release a like UFO update like they do their annual one in
Hmm.
2025. They haven't done either. And
Yep.
like nobody knows what's happening. They've just gone completely dark.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I did the math. We know it's not supposed to come out till 2027 if the math
that's right.
continues.
I forgot. You figured out like the exponential growth between release dates.
Yeah.
Now I've also got a section here for reactions from insiders. So
Okay.
these are people who aren't necessarily in the government now, but have been actively driving this forward. So first up, former director of the UAP task force, Jay Stratton. For anybody who's kind of like, who is that again? Jay Stratton and Lou Elizondo worked together in the government in Arrow and OSAP. When Lou Elizondo left the government to work publicly, they kind of had an agreement that Jay was going to continue pushing from the inside and Lou was going to push from the outside.
Yeah.
Jay Stratton then went on to be the director of the UAP task force, which eventually became Arrow. So Jay put out a statement saying, President Trump's announcement is a landmark occasion for us all. After years of fighting for disclosure behind the scenes, I couldn't be prouder to be a part of this turning point in human history. And then he says something I think is really interesting. Congratulations and thank you to Dan Farah for making the truly groundbreaking film The Age of Disclosure. Less than 3 months after the film's release, two U.S. presidents acknowledged non-human life exists, and President Trump has issued a historic disclosure order.
It seems like a distant correlation, but if that's what happened, um, yeah,
I mean, it gets
maybe that's
back
it.
to, if you look at any of these things individually,
Yeah, right.
they may not mean much, but cumulatively they add up. And
Hmm.
Dan Farah was making a lot of noise in the road to releasing the film that he had talked to people in the administration who were viewing that movie as a soft form of disclosure, that it was
Interesting.
effectively government sanctioned.
Yeah,
Um, and certainly the government could have done a lot to make his life
squish it.
harder, you know,
Yeah,
like, so
yeah,
yes.
and
Did Trump and Obama talk about aliens because of age disclosure? No. But age of disclosure helped. It was another
yeah,
drop in the bucket of this topic being taken seriously,
right,
journalists asking questions that they
right.
previously maybe wouldn't have. So I don't think he's crazy for making that connection, but you're right that there's not a one-to-one.
Yeah, yeah. Certainly, it created a lot of buzz,
Yeah.
and yeah, maybe that added up.
Yeah, for sure. Now, speaking of Lou Elizondo, he also put a statement. He said, "This is the culmination of many years of efforts, years in which families, careers, and personal safety were often placed at risk simply to have this conversation. I am deeply grateful to witness this day. As we move forward toward greater disclosure and transparency, my hope is that this moment brings people together."
Of Lou. Yeah, that's wonderful. And both he and Jay Stratton have worked so hard for this.
Yeah.
It's got to feel like, do you think they feel more relieved or excited or terrified about the amount of stuff they're going to have to do in the coming months?
Imagine a web dev project that you've been working on for a year, 2 years, like, which for anybody who's not a web developer is an unfathomably long time for most web dev projects. Like, it
Yeah.
feels insane. Um, when you finally get to the end and it releases, I think you'll agree that there's often conflicting feelings. On the one hand,
Mhm.
all you can see is everything that went wrong. Like, oh, we
Yeah.
didn't have time to fix that one bug, and this thing is a little off, and
Yeah.
the client wouldn't work on this.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you kind of have to take a moment to celebrate, like, hey, we started pushing this forward, and that work
Hmm.
has finally made a significant step forward. Regardless of what you think of them and the current state of UFO disclosure, Jay Stratton and Lou Elizondo were instrumental in
Hmm.
advancing this topic from both inside and outside the government. And
Yeah.
I think it's appropriate for them both to feel a sense of accomplishment at the fact
Yeah.
that we've now gotten to the point where the president releases a statement like this.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think the other side of that is like now customers are using it. And
Yeah,
now we've got a
exactly.
whole bunch of different problems. That's what I was
And
thinking about.
speaking of, their peer,
Yeah.
former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, Chris Mellon, our oldest fan of the podcast,
Hmm.
uh, said, to the extent they follow through, this is an enormously positive development.
Yeah.
That said, virtually all relevant documents are classified, and
Mhm.
identifying and declassifying them will be a lengthy, complex process. My concern is that an executive branch effort, if snarled in turf fights and classification nuances, could end up being misleadingly partial or incomplete, as we've seen recently with other unrelated disclosure efforts. Clear jab at the Epstein files there.
Right. Yeah. Or several others. Right.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
That's the
Chris
problem.
Mellon, little more pessimistic about whether this goes anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. But as usual, I find him to be the um, extremely realistic. Like, I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I probably could have ended this episode here. We've just got quotes from people, but
Yeah.
there was an article in the debrief about this that I was skimming over and almost didn't finish reading until I landed on a fascinating part that basically boils down to, can Trump even do this? And
Right.
this kind of ties into comments we made earlier. Like, who actually has the power to trigger disclosure? Can the
Mm,
president declassify things? Um, so I've got some longer quotes here and I've kind of broken them up, but I think this is really fascinating.
yeah.
Um, so they start by saying the gap between the headline grabbing word release and the legal action behind declassify is the
Yeah.
pivot point in this story, because without an explicit declassification order, any disclosure is likely to arrive slowly, selectively, and heavily shaped by national security concerns. So what they're
Yeah.
saying is Trump telling the DoD, start releasing UFO files,
Right.
doesn't mean declassify things.
Mm,
So it's up to
okay.
the DoD to decide what to declassify. Um,
Right.
so, first point here, Trump's order doesn't declassify anything.
Yeah. Well, and it's not an order, right? It's
At the
a,
moment, yeah, we'll, we'll,
yeah.
we'll get to that. But
If he
yes,
wrote, if he
let's
writes one,
assume
yeah.
this is
Okay.
indicative that he's going to make the actual order.
Okay. And so the point being, if that actual order doesn't include explicit declassification, it only includes release, then what he's saying is it will be slow, selective, and shaped
Yeah.
by national security.
And that gets back to George Knapp and Chris
Yeah.
Mellon's concerns that, like, you're going to see people dragging their feet. You're going to see,
Mm-hmm.
malicious incompetence. You're going to see people arguing that they don't have to release this because it's classified, etc. Um, but the debrief keeps going, and there's a reason to be hopeful.
Hmm.
They said, in the United States, the modern classification system is built on presidential executive orders, which means a sitting president has ultimate authority to classify or declassify anything they want at any time. The Supreme Court has emphasized just how expansive presidential authority can be, with one major exception: certain nuclear related secrets, which are governed by separate law.
Oh, um, I think when we were talking about age of disclosure, didn't you say that they used the Atomic Energy Act to hide stuff? So maybe this would be included.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
this has long been a claim that, in addition to transferring things to contractors so that contractors are exempt from FOIA requests, they also, one of David Grush's big claims is that they improperly classified a ton of
Mm,
stuff as atomic related when it's not. Now, you can
right.
kind of understand in the 40s, everything's atomic, and we find these flying saucers, we retrieve one, you just
Hmm.
assume it's atomic, you classify it under that.
Right.
The the read that most people have on this now is it's not that this stuff is atomic, it's something else, like zero
Sure.
point energy or something
Who
we can't
knows?
fathom. But the Atomic Energy Act was basically the normal classification process on steroids. And we can
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
hide things under the DOE that otherwise might get looked into. Um,
Right. Yeah. Or contractors, right?
yeah, yeah. Now, how much is under the DOE? My read on this is the big heavy duty shit, right? The actual bodies and craft and
Hmm.
programs that are investigating them might be under the DOE.
Right.
What's probably not under the DOE is Navy cockpit recordings of
Sure.
UAPs that are currently classified, but just under normal military classification.
Right.
So
Yeah.
even if we take as a given a lot of the heavy hitting stuff is under the DOE, there's probably a lot just in the
Hmm.
normal military chain of command that is
Yeah.
classified, but is classified because the example they always give us is we can't give you this video because releasing the video lets you infer things about how our, jets work, which
Right.
has always been a bullshit excuse because, boy, they take any excuse to release cockpit video of things that make them look good, like shooting down
Yeah.
a Chinese spy balloon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, anyway, none of it is. Almost certainly some of this stuff is hidden under the Atomic Energy Act.
Right.
The debrief continues. The nuclear secrets exemption is real and often misunderstood. Under the Atomic Energy Act, some nuclear information is treated as restricted data, which follows its own declassification
Mm.
process. However, for the UAP issue, President Trump is invoking records held by the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and other executive branch agencies. In this case, the presidential authority is sweeping.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly what you were saying. Like anything that was in that department is open. And there's got to be a lot of crumbs and
Yeah, you got to assume.
tidbits that we can pick up there. Yeah.
Yeah, and if nothing else, we hear that Congress has seen a lot of evidence that we're not privy to see because it's classified. That's the kind of stuff that I would
Mm.
expect to come out. Better quality videos, better quality
Yeah.
reports, things like that.
Yeah.
And again, the thing that we hear over and over from Arrow and Lou Elizondo and others is the reason we harp so much on military evidence is because the military doesn't just take a video. It's not like they got a camcorder in the nose
Right.
of the fighter jet. Whenever
Little
you get
GoPro.
recordings from a jet or any other military platform, it's, you know, visible light recordings, it's infrared recordings, it's radar
Mhm.
tracks, it's cockpit
It's everything
recordings
they
of the
can
pilots.
possibly figure out. Yeah.
It's everything. So that gets back to, could one video be wrong? Sure. But if you've got a video that's backed by radar tracks and pilot
Mhm.
reactions and, multiple other things, it gives it a lot more credibility.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. It's correlation and
yep,
confirmation of each other, which is
absolutely.
incredibly helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the debrief concludes with the thing that I found really interesting, which is, okay, the president can declassify anything in the executive branch, which includes the DoD and the intelligence community.
Hmm.
That's cool. The president probably can't declassify anything under the Atomic Energy Act, but fine.
Sure.
And Trump's original post on social media is not an order to declassify.
Right.
It
Yeah.
is signaling intent. So can the president do it? What do we need to see from Trump in order to get this? And a lot of people are like, until there's an actual executive order, this isn't happening. The debrief had something else to say. He said, if a president communicates that information is declassified, that decision is immediate and decisive. So if President Trump wanted to remove declassification as a barrier, he could unilaterally do it in plain language. He could say, quote, any government records about alien craft retrievals, reverse engineering, UAP sensor data, and related programs is hereby declassified to the maximum extent permitted by law. Such a statement would be an unmistakable trigger, even if it came via social media rather than a formal memo.
So that statement that they put, I'm guessing that is shorter than the Twitter limit, right? Like, here,
I mean,
cut and paste
I,
this.
I don't know what the limit is on Truth Social, but more to the point, he doesn't have to do some legal
Yeah,
procedure
right.
to do it. He can literally say in plain language,
Hmm.
and we've been very clear in the law, presidential tweets are official statements.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah. They always have been.
like it doesn't matter where he does it, but if he actually says this stuff is declassified, that's it. That's
Hmm.
all he has to do. It is now declassified. The president actually has unilateral authority to declassify anything within the executive branch.
Interesting. So all we have to do is bait him into saying that. Excellent.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be like in the Mission Impossible movies, where you get him to say a bunch of unrelated words and then you edit the tape together. Like, I, Donald Trump, agree that
Yeah, exactly.
my voice is my password.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, right. So I I went on kind of a journey over this. On like Friday, when everyone was still reacting to this, I was like, boy, I
Mhm.
don't know. And then I started pulling the quotes together, thinking, okay, we should do at least a quick update, maybe like a 20-minute thing on,
Yeah.
because otherwise, what I said to Chuck is, I think we should record an episode, because if we don't, what we're going to get is everyone who knows we have a UFO podcast is like, hey, are you guys going to talk about that thing Trump said? So we should at
Yeah,
least say
exactly.
something. But I thought
Yeah.
it was going to be quick. And then I started pulling it together. I'm like, okay, there's a
Wow,
bunch of
there's a lot.
stuff here that I found fascinating.
Mhm.
There's the implication that Obama maybe baited him into doing this.
Yeah.
Um, there's Trump, instead of making fun of Obama, saying that Obama said something that was classified, which
Mhm.
immediately makes you go back and look at what Obama says. What the fuck did
Right.
he mean there? Then, before you even have a chance to react to that, he's like, I'm going to release all the UFO files. All of this is in a context of, for months now, we've been hearing these rumors that
Mhm.
Trump wants to declassify and maybe has a speech written that maybe he's going to give on the Roswell anniversary. Um,
Yeah.
and then, even if you get to that point, you're like, okay, yeah, but Trump can't actually declassify this stuff, right? Actually, it
Turns
turns
out,
out he can.
right. At least according to the
I,
debrief.
yeah, now I don't blame anybody who is skeptical about this. Boy, this should be the tagline of this freaking podcast. I swear I say this every episode. But
That
if
in a
you listen to
nutshell.
all of this, you're like, yeah, but Trump. You know, that's fair. Nothing has happened yet.
Yeah.
But there's reason to take this a little more seriously than this was just some damn thing Trump said. Like
Yeah.
the Obama said something classified line really made me sit up and take notice. And
Mhm.
learning that he can actually do this if he does the thing is interesting. And even if nothing else comes of this, literally just the president publicly stating that he's in favor of this gives some air cover to Congress to push harder on this. So
Yeah.
I do think this is a big moment. What do you think, man? You had heard a little bit of this from talking to me, but now you just got this big info dump. Like this is kind of a big thing. Like, what do you think about it?
I think that I think that nothing's going to come of it, but I do think it's interesting. Um,
Yeah,
and I think that uh, I honestly think that Trump saying something in a tweet or whatever is almost certainly not enough.
sure.
Like there's going to be rules on the books somewhere
Yeah,
about
yeah.
like I don't know, but it's interesting and it's something to. I mean, it's a very exciting time.
It's a very exciting time. Boy, you have never been more tolerant friend than you're being right now. Uh, Chuck, I'm so excited. You got to hear all about this stuff. Like, yeah, that is exciting, Scott.
Good good
For
for you.
you. It's a very exciting time for Scott.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it could.
it's fine.
I mean,
That's the
honestly,
dynamic of this podcast, buddy.
yeah. But if it did happen,
Yeah,
boy, it would actually be a pretty exciting time.
it would be very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably closer to Chris Mellon's stance
Hmm.
on all of this. Um, I was surprised that there was more to this than I thought. But if you asked me, like, put odds on does anything come of this, you know, cautious optimism. Yeah, if they follow through and if there aren't like innumerable roadblocks in the way, this could be the start of something big.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
I mean, it's clearly indicative of things like the president talking about aliens. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
two presidents talking about aliens. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
There's another shirt idea for us, or tagline for the podcast. It's clearly indicative of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also had a
Uh
comment on the Discord after last episode that we need to make a new t-shirt that says gentleman ufologist.
yeah, absolutely.
That's a good
Yeah.
one.
When's that happen?
I mean, I can make it happen this weekend. I'm a little
All
busy,
right.
but I definitely I want a gentleman ufologist shirt, so I think
Absolutely.
it's coming.
Okay, cool.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this surprise episode of It's a Very Exciting Time. You can find show notes and more on our website, veryexcitingtime.com, as well as links to our Discord and social media accounts.
And if you'd like to support the show, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/veryexcitingtime or grab some t-shirts at veryexcitingtime.com/merch.
Right. And Chuck, as always, my wife thanks you for listening to me talk about UFOs so she doesn't have to.